The king never dies, for the event of a king's death is taken as a re-entry into the ancestral world and is announced only in circumlocutions, even on the talking drums. The nation will nonetheless weep and wail to express its grief until a new monarch ascends the golden stool. A monarch who, in the traditional imagery, will restore to his people the shelter of their king's umbrella and thus save them from being scourged to death by the sun. So, as they pay their last respects to their king and master, these hornblowers are also hopeful that soon they will adulate another descendant of Osei and Poku and recount to him the history of the nation. To locate another eagle for the nation is the constitutional duty of the Queen Mother, now the regent. The process of nomination may appear smooth and easy, but there are always heirs to choose from. And rival claims for accession to the golden stool are made behind the scenes. The kingmakers of the royal household, that is, the occupants of the Jassi and Kobia and Manwere stools, may have to face an uphill task to come to a conclusion. A unanimous decision, the kingmakers will communicate to the Queen Mother that they pronounce her nominee free from such serious diseases as leprosy, epilepsy, blindness, and sterility. Besides, he is not given to drunkenness, gambling, fornication, and haughtiness. But that does not end the nomination. The same physical and moral analyses are done by yet another body, the Kumasi State Council. Under the leadership of the principal right-wing chief of Kumasi, the Banta Mahini, the councillors will decide whether they accept or reject the first nominated heir. And what conclusion will they reach? Yes or no? It is yes. It is concerted yes for Birima Poku, the nominee. For him, the twilight of suspense has broken away, and with the Queen Mother, he can now shed tears of joy for his late uncle's gun to be given to him, and for the golden stool. The grove of the historic priests, Akomfo Anokye, at Agona in Ashanti, being visited today on the occasion of the making of a new king, takes us back to history. How and when the Ashanti nation and the golden stool came into being. Until the end of the 17th century, Kumasi was a subject state of the Denkyira nation, to whose king it sent gold, dust, and wives annually as tribute. With the help and wise counsel of the priest Anokye, the great ancestor of the present chief of Agona, Kumasi was determined to break and cast off the yoke of servitude. First, Kumasi formed a loose union with nearby states. When sufficient strength had been mobilized through unity, hatred for the common enemy inspired King Osei Tutu and the other chiefs of the union to battle it out with Denkyira. This was the famous battle fought at Fiyasi near Kumasi in about 1701. The Dentyiras were vanquished. Ntim Jakeri, the king of the Dentyiras, was captured and beheaded. Some of the weapons used to silence Denkyira in the Battle of Fiyasi have been kept as museum pieces in the priest Anokye's grove at Agona. Ashanti nation, like this stone in front of the house of the celebrated priest Anoche, has been able to weather centuries of storms because of the one main visible symbol of unity, the Golding Stool. The paramount sacredness of the Golding Stool was demonstrated in 1896 by Ashanti's submission to the deportation of their king, Prempeh I, by the colonial government. Rather than resort to war, in which they feared they might risk the loss of the Golding Stool, they allowed the loss of their king by exile to the Seychelles. Before King Prempeh I was sent to the Seychelles, he and were kept at the Elmina Castle. After much petitioning and support from within and outside Ashanti, Prempeh I's repatriation was achieved. Now ensued on his arrival at Sekondi in November 1924, he was received at the Deba by the then Governor Gattisberg. Today, the links of history continue to chain together as time moves on, with Birima Kweku Edusei the successful nominee to the Golding Stool of Ashanti. After a period of confinement following his nomination, the king-elect now emerges for a public introduction. On this occasion, the king-elect will also take the oath of his high office before the elders of the Kumasi state. To the people, indeed to the whole kingdom, Nana Poku is coming to supply a vital spiritual link with the ancestors, a link which has been missing since the departure of Otumfuo Se Osei Agyeman Prempeh II for the spirit world.